We suck again. Knicks lose to Orlando 104-98. The starters offense is just absolutely horrendous. Um, Julius Randle, I feel like, has had maybe 3 good games this year. It's kind of pathetic when it's easy to say that RJ has had more good games than our best player, and RJ's probably only had maybe 6 good games. The Knicks are now 8-7, and things are definitely going south very quickly. Evan Fournier has not played in the fourth quarter in about 6 games now. Our star free agent signing has not played in the fourth quarter in probably 3 weeks. That's not good. Um, the most efficient person in the guys that played tonight are Mitchell Robinson and Obi Toppin, and they took 6 and 9 shots respectively. The guys that took the most shots are R.J. Barrett and Alec Burks. 37% for RJ, 31% for Alec Burks, 36% for Julius Randle. No one was good. How you just can't do that when you're playing the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic. How many wins do the Orlando Magic have? 4.
Yep.
Two of them come at MSG. 2 of them. Just embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. I don't know what to say. The starting lineup needs to figure their stuff out right now, or things are going to go south, and we should start selling off for a tank, because that's how disgusting and ugly this night was. Moo, I didn't introduce the show. I didn't
That's right.
introduce you or
That's
Kyle. Why don't you give me a little
We're beyond
something?
that. Um,
Yeah, we're beyond that right now.
yeah, I mean, it's a problem. You simply cannot have your starting backcourt right not be in there at crunch time. Right? You can say, "Well, it's a bad game." It's not a bad game, right? Uh,
It's multiple bad games at this point. Yeah,
Right. Yep. Your glasses have to be really rose red to think that this is just a here and there, and that there's something that somehow organically going to happen, that they're going to figure things out.
yeah,
This is not working. It's clear, right? Unless you're, like a lot of the guys on the board, where your first reaction is, I got to defend everything next. Right? It's not about defending, right? It's about the reality of what this team is, right? 8-7, you could look at it from the outside and say, oh, that's still not a bad record, right? Yeah, that's a bad record. It's not the record that's the problem. It's the team that's playing, right?
yeah.
That's the problem. And you can always look on the glass half full and say, oh, wow, the bench is great. That's a problem.
Yeah.
You can't rely on your bench this much. If you're a team that does, you'll never win when it counts, because you cannot match an opposing team in the playoffs starting lineup with your bench. You just can't. It doesn't work. So any games, any great looks by their bench it means nothing, right? If the goal is to win games, right, it really doesn't mean anything, right? It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing.
And it's like, we didn't like lose for really any particular reason. Like there's nothing that you can really point to. I mean, I guess maybe the turnovers. There was 18 turnovers tonight,
Mhm.
that led to 23 Orlando Magic points. So I think maybe that's like the one thing you could be like, all right, this is where we went wrong. But realistically, it's like the team didn't hit shots. It's like I said when I
Yeah,
went into my opening rant, is
yeah,
Julius Randle has not been good at all. I mean, we are 15 games into the season, and hit what's his best game? What, like, the game against Boston is like his really only good game, and that's the same thing that goes for Evan Fournier. His only good game is against Boston, and I think someone posted on the board, that was before this game, that he's averaging like 11 points, 39% from the field, and like 34% from three, with excluding the first game of the season. It's like, that's really bad. That is way
yeah.
below what's on the back of his basketball card.
Yes,
You know,
that's true. Excluding the first game and tonight, 11 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, 39% shooting, 34% from three,
right. That's a huge problem.
minus
That is
4.4.
And
that
it's
is
like,
it. Yeah.
so what you're gonna say, Moo?
Yeah, I mean that definitely is a big problem, and I think part of it, obviously, Randall's a big part of it, right? He's got to, he's a big guy. He's a grown man, right? He's got to figure this out and do better. That's without question. But I think, a contributing factor to this, and this is something that I think the guys mentioned in the post game, is that the Knicks are predictable offensively, and
Yeah.
I've said that, right? They're predictable. They were predictable last season. They were definitely predictable in the playoffs. That's how the Hawks beat them so well, right? It just, yeah. I mean, we'll go back. I'll go back, and they asked, right, uh, the
I mean,
Hawks, how do you
right now,
defend? Yeah, I mean,
right now,
and
RJ Barrett is shooting 32% from 30,
right, right,
31.8.
right, and so is it the offensive system? I think in part that is.
I just think it's people not hitting shots. I
But
mean, they're open shots. Like RJ took 7 threes tonight.
but they
I would say he took maybe 3 off the dribble, but the
the
rest of them were
problem,
wide open.
but the problem is they took too many threes. That's
Yeah,
one, and it's not. Most of those threes were not good threes. Even some of the ones they got in were not good threes. It's not something you normally in game would say, "Oh, that's a great three." They got lucky, and they still lost, right? So I think they took more threes than twos. Well, that's not good. You can't win that way. Not with this team, right? Because what happens is then you rely on your 3-point shooters, which we have good 3-point shooters. We don't have great 3-point shooters, right? We don't have a Steph or a Clay or any of those guys. If we did, yeah, take all the threes you want.
I mean, but also
But
you just can't have RJ and Randall, who are your two. Like, granted tonight that Randall hit 4 of 10 threes.
right,
But there's been quite a step back for both RJ and Randall, who are our two best players.
right, and
I think Randall's at like 36, 35%. And like I just said, RJ's at like 32%. That's like a huge step back. Like RJ's jumper has just completely abandoned him. I mean, even on like solid mid range jumpers, they like roll in and out. Like, it's just
but
like nothing is going down for anybody right
but
now.
I think part of the reason is because they're not getting any good shots. And it's part of it is because they're being defended really well, right? So when you're, I don't know how good a defensive team Orlando is in the mix, right? From defensive rating, but when you can't get your shot against bottom feeder teams, there's something wrong. It's more than just well, they're just not hitting shots. The system is not enabling them to get good looks. It is predictable. You can just see it. All you have to do is, if we, what I would like to do is take most of these games with the Knicks just really don't do well. If you splice out all of the offense of the other team, right, into a one video, take all the Knicks. If you watch the other team execute an offense, this is any team, just about any team, even the bad ones. Their offense flows better. The Knicks are
Yeah.
predictable. You can right, and they mentioned in the postgame, you can pretty much predict if you're the opposing defense what the Knicks are going to do, and
Yeah.
therefore it makes it easy even for a bad team to defend it. Right, any team with half an effort, giving an effort with length, will be able to defend the Knicks because
Well,
they
I mean,
don't really do
it's
anything ground. Right,
well. I mean, the problem is that Evan and Kemba don't hit shots.
and
RJ can
and
only really create looks at the rim. He can't shoot off the dribble
right,
right now.
right,
I
and
mean, he'll take good shots, but they're off the dribble, and you just know they're not going to go in. And then Randall. I mean,
they're,
again, looking at second half,
mhm.
Randall. Minus 15, 1 of 5 from the field, 1 of 5 from three. Do
they're
you want Julius Randle only shooting 3 pointers in 24 minutes of basketball? I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
don't
think
at all.
there's something going on with Randall as well, right? His body language when he came back in the fourth was like, okay, You didn't have me in the game. I'm not going to really do anything. You pass me the ball, I'll pass it back out. Or you guys make it, right? So that's not a good sign.
Can I
Definitely that.
just jump in real quick? I
Yeah,
think we're
Yeah.
going the long way around saying we need an elite level shot creator, which is
that is
something I've
correct.
been saying
Correct. And we still
ever.
don't have it.
I mean,
that's-
of course, we need elite level shot maker. But the problem is that Randall is not being like a normal shot maker. I mean, he's shooting way below what he's normally
There's a
done.
difference. There's a difference. Shot creator versus shot maker. You don't need to make the shots. You need to create the shots. I feel like
Fair
a shot
enough.
maker is someone like what Randall was last year. He was making his own shots. But a shot creator is somebody who can like get his own shot and also set up his teammates to make shots. We really don't.
Yeah,
have
but
that.
if Randall was 75% as good as he was last year, I think we're a way different. It's a way different team.
That's the thing, though. Is
he's like a quarter as good as he was last year.
If you go back to my whole theory, I don't know if I said this, but I definitely posted it. Is that Randall's not the type of guy who is creating shots for his teammates, even when he's getting assists. He's getting assists off his teammates creating off the ball. That's not a bad thing, but that's a different skill set than creating shots for them. It's the difference between like Draymond Green and Nikola Jokic getting assists and like John Morant getting assists. They're two different things.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I understand that. It's like he gets the Stephon Marbury versions of assists or whatever.
He doesn't right, regardless of how well he does himself for his own points. And last year he did great. This year not so. We can talk about why that's happening. The reality is he doesn't make his teammates' offense easier. Right? And the problem with that is when you have a team like the Knicks, which don't have a lot of talent, especially other guys that can create their own shots, you have to rely on Randall or somebody to be able to create shots for other people. And that's just not Randall's game, right? He's not LeBron. He's not Kawhi. He's not any of those guys.
But I mean,
he is what he is.
I mean, as of right now, I mean, he's shooting basically 6 points, 5.5 points less than his average from last year from 2 points or just regular field goal percentage, and then a whole exactly 6 from 3. Like, again, these are just huge step downs from your best player. You go from taking 18 shots for 24 points to now you're doing 17 shots for 19, almost 20 points. Again, that's a huge step back.
That's a huge step back, but I think teams have figured out how to guard Randall, and therefore the Knicks.
Yeah.
Right. The Hawks laid out the perfect blueprint to beat the Knicks, and the additions they've made this year have not changed that. They haven't. Right. When Walker and Fournier can't even get themselves into the fourth quarter, they haven't changed. It's the same team.
Sure. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
And we saw what happened to Randall once you figure out how to defend him in the Knicks. Right, in the playoffs. He's basically repeating that because teams are doing the easy thing. It's easy to defend the Knicks. You bother Randall, you don't make anything easy for them, and you kind of play zone and force the Knicks to be lucky at threes. They have good 3-point shooters. They don't have great 3-point shooters. They cannot beat you. They cannot beat teams, especially come playoffs, by shooting threes. You can't.
Well, no, I mean, nobody's hitting them. I mean,
that's the problem.
I guess you gotta hope that they get hot again.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. They don't have bona fide elite scoring shooters. They have guys that could kind of score and that could get streaky. IQ streaky. Burks streaky. Rose hitting great, but he can't. You can't expect him.
RJ streaky.
Streaky. Right.
Randall wasn't streaky, but now he's just awful.
Right now. When your game is, hey guys, you just jack up threes, right? They're not the jack up three and win type. Now, if you had a playmaker that can actually break down defenses and give them wide open looks, better looks at the three, then jack up threes, right? Because then it'll be good threes, not what they're doing now. So again, it goes back to they need someone else, right? Walker was supposed to be that guy. Fournier, I don't think anybody expected to be, the playmaker. That he's better than Bullock and he's an upgrade. Yeah, he still is. Right, Bullock's doing even worse right now, still. By the way, but
yeah, well, thank God you pointed that out because
right.
watching Evan wants me to like stab my eyes out right now.
Right.
So.
But Walker is right. He was supposed to be the guy that was an $8 million contract in a $25 million player. He's an $8 million contract with maybe an $8 million player.
And the big problem is like when he goes off and he's doing things, nobody else have figured out how to contribute.
Right.
I think that's the biggest issue is that like like tonight RJ figured it out in the second half, but nobody else in the starters could do it. And as Kyle put it out in our little like pre-production chat, once Mitch went out of the game, surprisingly, things kind of like went for the worse. And I don't know if that's necessarily because Randall came back in the game, or that we just kind of lost something when Mitch came in.
I will say. Hang on. My argument there was that it was more the losing Mitch than putting Randall in. I think you could have put basically anybody on the bench in, and we still would have lost the momentum. I think Mitch was just doing that much for us on defense.
Right.
Because our offense is so hit or miss, we can't consistently keep that up. But we were consistently keeping the defense up, which allowed us to get back in the game.
Right. On a team like the Magic, who they don't have elite shot creators either, right? Having Mitch can make a big impact because he alters and intimidates shots, right?
Yeah.
If against an elite team with an elite shot creator, that's not as big an impact, right? But against a team like the Hawks, yeah, absolutely, right? Him being there with Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs, I mean, they're good players, young players. They're not elite shot creators. Neither one of them.
Suggs actually went off in the second half.
He did, but he's not. He's not.
Yeah,
the type
I'm not. He didn't break us. He certainly didn't break us.
Right. And I think I mean, that's the biggest part. Like I think we're all in agreement. I mean, if they want to win, right? Maybe they don't. Maybe at some point they realize, you know what? We can't find an elite shot creator. Then at which point, maybe thinking about going in a different direction would be the better idea.
Again, I think, and I've like hammered on this already. I think the biggest issue is that Julius and Evan have been just god awful.
Right.
They just both have been absolutely terrible this year. Like I said before, like RJ's had some flashes. He's probably had like 6, maybe 7 good games. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this has been 7 bad games in a row. At least in the past 2, he's had second halves where you're like, oh, like maybe something's good is gonna happen from here. But you're just not gonna win with your best player just being god awful. Most of the year.
But the problem is your best player is not really for a top playoff team a best player caliber player.
Yeah.
Right. And then which might be fine if you had that second elite guy that can share the load. Knicks don't. Right. It's the same problem they've had forever.
Yeah.
Right. They have that one guy that's kind of a star, of varying degrees. Ewing was a top tier star. Then you go down to, Marbury, which is kind of just a star. And then Carmelo's maybe somewhere in there, right? But the biggest problem with all of those teams is they could not build a winning team, right, around that player. Now, you could blame the player for not being a top tier, top 5, top 10 player. But I don't know that's fair. And that's kind of always been my point, right?
But I think the thing is that Randall is not even mediocre at this moment, and neither is Fournier. Like,
and I think the biggest...
if they're playing it like how the back of their back, like how their whole careers have lined up, like we win this game, we win a bunch. We're probably, instead of 8 and 7, we're probably 10 and 5 or 10 and 6.
Here's the thing, right? If you look at Randall his entire career, this is the least talented team he's been on.
I don't think that's true.
No,
I don't think that's true at all.
Hang on. When he was on the Pelicans, are we counting Anthony Davis or not?
Absolutely,
because he only played for like a third of the season.
It doesn't matter. The fact that you have Davis in the wings and there, right, creates a buffer for the other players. You cannot throw players out in the wind with no expecting of any cavalry.
Do you remember how bad the 2015 Lakers were?
Yeah, they were horrible.
Yeah. And that was his rookie year, though, right?
You remember how bad the 2016 Lakers were?
And that was his.
Do you remember how bad the 2017 Lakers were? I can keep going.
The point is, right?
This team has talent.
This
Like I
team does not
said,
have talent. They do not have
well,
talent. They have
we're
talent on paper in the past
yeah,
and
but like
hopeful in the future. No, but
like we've seen like 6 or 7 years of Julius Randle being way better than he is right now. We've seen like 8 or 9 years of Evan
last year,
Fournier being way better than he is right now. That's a
la-
huge problem when they're way worse than they've ever been in their entire careers.
but it's the
That's a
team.
like
It's the team, right? You have to put players in positions to succeed, not fail. You can't expect players to always do more than they can realistically. Be fair, realistic, and fairly expect what they can do.
all
Right
right.
now, the
So
Knicks
so so
need.
so Mo, so Mo, so
Yeah,
Mo, what do you think? What do you think is missing? You think that we're missing the shot creator,
you need
right?
a shot creator, right? I think folks, especially on the board, they get focused on the wrong things. Right. It's the, oh, wait, you're talking about any Knicks, I'm gonna defend them to the death. Or hey, I love these particular players and therefore I don't want to trade them. Right. The point is maybe I'm wrong. The point is about winning, right? It's not about defending, it's not about liking players and wanting to keep players you like. It's about winning. To
Yeah.
win in the NBA, you need one thing, right? A lot of things. You need a lot of things. The number one thing is talent, top tier talent. There's just no way around it, especially in basketball,
Yeah, but
right?
still, like you don't think RJ, Julius,
Nah,
and Evan Fournier are talented
they're
basketball
they're a
players?
talent. They're talented to make this team a treadmill team.
But that's fine. That's way better.
Can
That's way better than
can I
we've
just
ever
say?
been
Can I say? I
before.
think
Yeah.
Jim. Let me just I think what you're trying to say is, and let me see if I can
Right.
summarize this. Is
Mhm.
it doesn't matter if we're a treadmill right now,
Right.
and this is my view of it. I'm taking the long term view, and that this season is kind of a wash no matter which way it goes. The goal of this season was
Fact.
to preserve assets and see if a star player becomes available for trade. If we can get a guy, we go get him, but we don't force a trade. And I think that's what
Which is fine.
that's
Right.
what I think. That's I think that mindset of, well, we need a star, we need to get this, we need to get that. I think that's what kind of led us into those Isaiah years of, oh, we need to do something right now. You
Well,
need to strike a
yeah.
balance. So it's like I said.
Oh, definitely,
I
definitely.
think with Moo, I think with the Jim on the board, you need to have a balance between, all right, we need to go out right now and get stuff. That was Isaiah's problem, and
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you had the
Yep.
opposite problem with Phil Jackson was, we'll just wait too long. So
Yeah.
Phil
you
Jackson
need
was
to find, because we waited until Melo depreciated in value, didn't get much
right.
for him. We did get
Correct.
Mitch, but besides that, we waited until
Correct.
KP depreciated
Correct.
in value, didn't get much for
Right.
him.
Yep.
So the
Hmm.
thing is, you have to strike at the opportune moment. Not too
Right.
early, not too late. So this
Right.
season, I don't think is the opportune moment. So we'll just treadmill for a year, and we
I
still
mean,
have assets
Well,
to make a trade.
that's what I thought the plan was. Is that like we built a treadmill team for 2 years, and that we would be like a 43 to 48 win
the,
team,
the
and like maybe we made it to the here. Let me finish my thought, and then I'll toss to you, Moo, if that's okay. So yeah, like I thought the idea was, let's build this like 43 to 48, maybe 49 win team, and we would like hope that someone that would be like interested in coming here, and then you would sell off some pieces to make that move. Unfortunately, Randall and RJ and Evan Fournier have been awful. And so like it's making that a little bit more difficult because
right.
like the starters have no chemistry and they're not fitting together at all, which is surprising because you would think that they would because of all the jump shooting, but
Right.
um it's not happening and they're not creating easy shots and they're looking just absolutely horrid.
But they're not able to is the problem because that's not what they do well.
But again, it's like Randall created easy shots last year. Evan Fournier, well, maybe he's not
Yeah.
easy. I think that's me, elaborating too much. But
Yeah.
Randall hit shots last year. Evan Fournier hit shots last year. And even if Kemba is going to be bad, like you expect more from those two guys.
I think Randall, and I want to again make sure nobody thinks I'm a Randall fanatic or defending him. From my point of view, he is what he is, right? He's the next best player. That in and of itself is the problem.
From my point of
my
view, the
take-
Jedi are evil.
Well, of course. Well,
Right,
actually, you know what,
right.
Kyle, let's let Moo get a point out
Yeah,
before.
sorry.
Yeah, let me just
jump. Yeah,
let
jump
me
around
just
stuff.
get right. So, but that's not the biggest thing, right? Because unless you expect him to be more than he is, which apparently a lot of fans on the board expect him to be more than he is, right? It's not fair to expect, well, Randall's got to do all this. And there is no other player in the NBA that has less to work with, like start on a playoff team, right? There are bad teams that have less to work with, right? If you look at this team as a playoff caliber team, and I think you have to, right? Otherwise, why are we even doing this, right? There is no other playoff caliber team that has a worse supporting cast than Randall has. And you can not hard argue that Randall is not, if you look at the playoff caliber teams, not a top tier player, playoff caliber team, right? That's being honest. So my expectation of Randall is that he needs help. He cannot do what I think a lot of fans are expecting him to do and getting upset with him to do. It's the same thing with Carmelo. It's the same thing with Marbury. It's the same thing with Ewing. They are not MJ, LeBron, and whoever else was, the top guy when Marbury was playing. They're not that.
My problem with that is that I expect Julius to only shoot 45% from the. I think that's my big problem.
Yeah, no,
That's my biggest
I
problem.
agree. I agree with Moo that if you expect him to be LeBron, Giannis, Jokic, whoever, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Absolutely.
I'm not expecting that from him.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm not. My expectations for Julius Randle is to be Julius Randle, the Julius Randle we saw last year. And I get that. Yeah, he doesn't have the best supporting cast. I still think this cast is better than what we had last year. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that should be pretty self-evident. We are a better team this year than last year.
Here's the thing, right?
So I'm just gonna say, I expect Randall to be able to perform to the standards I know he can. Same thing with RJ. RJ is underperforming, but I'm more willing to let that slide because he's a young guy. I can more tolerate inconsistencies there. Randall is supposed to be an all-star. I expect him to be who he was for us. And he's not meeting those expectations right now, and I think that's a reasonable expectation to have.
Even if he takes a step back, which I think we all kind of assume
he's
that
definitely taking a step back.
Oh well, yeah. I mean that's not argumented
right.
or whatever. But I expect it to be like a slightly less dramatic step back than was what has happened. Like. He's not playable in the fourth quarter.
Here's my take on this. Teams have figured him out. And again, it goes back to the team, right? No one player makes or breaks the team. If it does, if Randall is that type of player, the Knicks are in trouble, right? So no one player makes or breaks the team. The opposing teams have figured how to defend Randall.
Actually, I disagree about that a little bit. Mm-hmm. I feel like if your best player is struggling as much as Randall has been struggling, yes, that can break the team. That can, like again, it's like he's like shooting like 41% or whatever I said earlier in the show. Again, it's like if he's at 45 and even he's at 36% from three. Like you can stomach, you can tolerate that, but like
you can tolerate that if you have other players on the team that can carry the load. They don't have it.
Right.
They have Rose. That's it. Rose cannot play 30 minutes a game in and game out. And he's showing that. He looked gassed again in the fourth quarter.
But again, it's like you have RJ, you have Burks, you have
RJ on a playoff team would be a number 4 option.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's fine. But you still need your best players to perform.
Absolutely. And that's a big contributing factor. But this team, the way they play, the players they have, need something, right? So at some point, bottom line, they can't stand still, right? They have to decide, will this team work with something that we can add, right? This year, next year, but it can't be, well, let's say 2 years, then next year we'll punt, and the next year we'll punt, and next year we'll punt like 10 years, just like the last 20 years, right? Yeah. You can't do that. You have to have an idea of what you have and what you can project out to, right? So if you don't think
you need a piece to build around. So the fact
Correct.
that RJ and Randall have both taken massive step backs,
Well, that
Maybe RJ a little bit less than Randall's step back
honestly,
is a huge problem.
honestly, I don't think the two of them fit well together. I've said this
Uh,
before.
Without
RJ looks
either,
a lot better with the bench. I'm just gonna say
Correct. Yes.
he did.
Tibbs needs to stagger their minutes. I
Yeah,
don't know how
absolutely.
this is still a conversation. He needs to do
I
it.
don't know. Yeah.
I mean, he did. He brought tonight. He brought RJ back with the bench, and all of a sudden we took the lead. I don't think that's a coincidence.
No,
But
let's
that's
hope.
still. But
Well,
let,
RJ and Mitch with the bench.
yes, he's been doing Mitch with
Yeah.
the bench a little bit
Yeah.
more. He's did it in the first half too, which I thought was interesting as well. But most importantly, RJ needs to hit some 3 fucking pointers.
Yes.
0 for 7.
If
0 for 7
if RJ hits 2, it's tied going into overtime.
Sure.
Right.
2 out of 7
Right.
3-pointers is not ridiculous to ask.
No, it's not ridiculous to ask.
I mean, you could say
all.
you could say the same thing. 6 out of 12 is a bit much to ask for Alec Burks, but the team as a whole should be able to hit 2 more 3-pointers.
Right.
Out of how many?
That's minimum.
I think they would and could if the offense moved a better. Whether it's the plays they run, the lack thereof, or shot rate. I don't know what it is, right? But yeah, absolutely. It's not with their shooters, right? They do have guys that can shoot, right? Getting 2 more shouldn't have been a big deal, right? But they can't because you can say, well, they're just streaky, but a lot of streak is when you expect guys to do more than they can. You need to make the shots easier for them. So either that's working on more complex plays, right? To use screens and like the other teams do. Even Orlando is doing that a lot. Or
do you think it breaks the breaks the team if you bring Rose and IQ into the starting lineup? Do you think that like breaks what we have that's so good?
Yeah, I think
What's so
that's
good?
like. Yeah, I mean,
well,
I don't know.
it's
better. It's better.
I mean,
relative.
we're 8-7 still. I know that's like we're still in the playoffs, with
but
that
it's
record.
like the worst 8-7 team that you can.
Fair enough. But what I'm saying is that like obviously our bench is really good. They have a elite amount of chemistry, and like when they step on the floor, things obviously change.
Right.
So if you take Rose and IQ out of that situation, and like they obviously are the two that probably I would say those two, and then RJ as the third probably get the most penetration on offense. Does that
sadly,
break?
I think Burks is one of the better penetrators, which is not good.
So Burks is a horizontal guy.
Yeah,
He can get around screens and pull up. He doesn't do much driving.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Kyle. Although he did have that sick layup tonight. That reverse.
Yeah, that was pretty nice.
That was
pretty nice.
That was pretty sweet. You guys chat for a second. I want to run to the fridge and grab another drink.
Yep.
Grab more than just one.
Yeah, just grab a couple and shove some through the screen.
Yeah. I think we all need some after that one.
Oh, man. But yeah, I think my biggest issue, and I want to talk about the board's opinions and takes, is standing still and waiting. I don't think there is a standstill wait that's going to do anything. I think it definitely at some point this front office needs to make a decision. Right, you can't be 100%. There's no way to be guaranteed anything.
At some point, yeah. Like I said, I think we're still at the point where we can say patience. I think we're at that point through the end of this year. But once we have to deal with RJ's extension, we cannot be patient anymore.
Yeah.
That to me is the deadline. Not this offseason, next offseason. Really, next trade deadline. Like not this one year after. That is, we have to make a move before then. So for now, I'm comfortable saying just wait and see what happens, because you never know who could become available. But we do have to make it before we have to extend RJ. Because once we do, that's too much money committed to RJ, Fournier, and Randall.
Yep.
We really can't do much after that.
Yeah, we also need to figure out what RJ is too.
I think the next.
I think that's the most important thing.
I think the next 5 games will be a good uh, gauge on where this team is at. Right, they have Houston next. Houston has won one game.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
about as must win as you can possibly get. If they
we
lose,
need to beat up. We need to beat up Houston. Like
yeah,
we can't have a game like we did tonight.
they cannot come out of the third quarter, whether they're up by 2 points or whatever, it's up by 6, and then just roll over, which is what they're doing.
Yeah,
If they lose to Houston, then the next 4 games I think are not. It's against big name teams that, right? You've got the Bulls.
What's the schedule? What's the schedule?
I think it's the Bulls after the Rockets. It's the Bulls, Lakers, Phoenix is in there, and there's one other team.
Oh God.
It's
yeah,
not. It's not a.
All right. So here's the schedule.
Yeah. Sure.
Houston, then Chicago. That's a back-to-back, by the way. Lakers, then Phoenix and Atlanta back-to-back.
Yep.
And then Brooklyn to close out the month.
Oh yeah, that's
and then start December in Chicago, Denver, Spurs, Indiana, Toronto.
I'm going to that Bulls game in Chicago.
Then
December.
The Bucks.
And I think they're.
I'm going to the Bucks game in December.
In Milwaukee?
No. There's one. The December 12th is in New York.
Oh, in New York. Okay.
Yeah. And Golden State. Oh, we really don't get much of a break coming up.
Yeah, and I think LeBron is targeting.
Yeah, Friday.
The next
Friday,
game.
Friday,
Right?
yeah, Friday.
Definitely by the next game. Yeah.
I think the next like two game stretch where we play bad teams in a row is the end of December. We play the Timberwolves, then Detroit, then OKC, and then that's really it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point, I think it's after the stretch of games, right? I mean, they could do anything. They could surprise again, turn it back on, right? They've been kind of inconsistent like that. They could turn on and win the majority of those games, and whatever. But if I had to predict, I don't think this will be a good swing for this team, the way they look right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like it's one of the things that I'm expecting is like eventually the offense to wake up. Like there's just too much offensive talent on this team for this to be like us to consistently score under 100 points.
I think I don't know. My opinion is that if you don't have elite shot creators and your offensive system is pretty predictable and simple, that it just doesn't mix for a good offense.
Yeah, I mean, like again, it's like I don't like. I want Evan Fournier to be the Magic Evan Fournier. Like I don't think that's like asking too much, and there's definitely more talent on this team than there was on those Orlando Magic teams. And it's like, can Julius Randle even be as good as Vucevic was on any of those teams? He hasn't been, I'm glad that RJ has shown some flashes in the past 2 games, so that like I can be like, all right, so like we can maybe expect a little bit more from him going forward, but. Still, like it all comes down to Evan, RJ, and Randall, and if those guys can't turn this around at all and start hitting shots, it's just, we're not going to go anywhere. Even like I know you're saying like we need Kemba to get more dribble penetration, and I agree with you, but those 3 should be able to create some offense without Kemba around.
So let me ask real quick: Are you guys encouraged by the defense looking a little better? Because over the last 5 games, we have been terrible offensively, but we've had the 11th best defense.
Yes. I see it as a yes and no, as a double-edged sword. Because I think the Knicks, right? They don't have elite defensive players, so they have to gamble, and they have to cover, and it expends a lot of energy.
I mean. I feel like it depends. I feel like it depends, and sorry, but like I feel like it depends on. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. I guess it depends on who we've been playing. Yes, that's awesome that we've like moved up to 11th, or like in the last like 5 or 6 games that we're like at 11th.
Well, our last 5 games were I think that's including tonight versus Orlando, the Pacers, Charlotte, the Bucks, and the 76ers.
Right.
Okay,
So
so like,
Yeah.
this game aside, not the bottom of the league.
Yeah.
so all
I mean,
right, so now that you mentioned the 5 teams that we played, yes, that makes me feel a little bit better, and I think that we're trending in the right direction.
yeah, I mean,
But again, we need to at least hit as many shots as we hit last year.
the offense is killing this team. Defense is kind of holding us up, right? But
So
it's
yeah,
it's
so
yeah.
overall, we've dropped to 9th on offense, so still top 10,
Right.
and we've gone up to 18th on defense.
Mhm.
So the offense has come down, but the defense has risen about the same value. So I think
Yeah.
it's about averaging out over. We're starting to see it average out over the course of the year.
Right.
We
I mean,
won't be we won't be a top 5 offensive team,
you
but we
definitely
should
not.
be able to maintain above average. It's about whether we can keep the defense going,
I
and then
yeah
you'll see
yeah
that it'll average out to more wins.
yeah. I think
Sure.
definitely no. I think if you told anybody that Knicks would be a top 5 or top 8, top 9 offense team, people would say you're nuts, right? Defense, absolutely, right? But I mean, so it's surprising that the offense. I think a lot of it is due to the early games where they were hitting threes, right? They were very
Yeah.
very hot. If you take those games out, I'm sure the offense has been it's kind of zoning down or trending down. Defense,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely, it's a plus.
I'm very curious because we were what 5-1 after 6
Yeah,
games.
yeah.
I'm very curious on what the offense looks like in like the last, I guess, nine games.
So you guys actually want to know something that's kind of fun, kind of concerning.
Sure.
So
Sure.
our offensive rating this year is 110.2, which is ninth best in the league.
Mhm.
Last year our offensive rating was 110.6, which was 23rd in the league. So
Yeah.
conversely, here's the slightly more concerning bit. Last year our defense rating was third in the league at 108.2. This year we're 18th at 109.2. So the ratings,
There's
like our per 100 possession stats, haven't really changed, but that's just kind of shown how much more defensive focus this year has
Yeah,
been
I
for the
mean,
entire league.
absolutely. With the rule changes, it's favoring defensive teams. You can hack people now, right? It's almost like the '90s again, where you're hitting people and it's okay. um,
I also think the crowds back being in the arenas
right.
matter a whole lot. I don't want to undersell that. I think that's super duper important, which is why
Yeah.
I think that was one of my points last year when Channel Bomber was like, oh, like Julius was like so like not efficient last year when he like missed like average true shooting by like a half a percentage point. And I was just like,
I,
yeah, man. Like half the season was like with no people in the arena, so like half a percentage point being like off of the average is like not that significant because it's like the average true shooting was like way up. But now when you see Randall and he's like obviously way below average now.
yeah, I
So
think
so
what
here so here are the
yeah,
actual numbers. So TS plus is adjusted to your average for the year, the league average for the year. It's kind of like
Uh-huh.
ERA plus if you know baseball. So 100 is average, above is better, below is worse. Last year Randall had a true shooting at a TS plus of 99. This year it's 94.
yeah, that's a yeah. It may not seem like much, but that's a pretty
So that's a much
Substantial.
better way of looking at it
yeah.
than just raw true shooting, because that's
Yeah.
like how efficient you are compared to the rest of your peers is more
Oh,
meaningful than just
right.
general, because it
So,
changes.
do you guys? Let me ask you guys a question. Two things, right? That do you think is impacting Randall? One is he's still shell shocked from the Hawks series, and two, are the changes in the rules about hacking and hitting, right? Which is it's actually impacted a lot of these guys, right? James Harden is having the worst year of his career. The Hawks they're gaining speed, but a big part of that was because Trae Young's not getting all the calls that he used to get last year. So how much of either one of those two do you think is contributing to how Randall's playing? Shell shocked because of the Hawks series and the rule changes.
I'm gonna. You want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
I'll go first. I think it's more shell shock
Mhm.
of the Hawk series than anything else. I just think he's just missing jumpers. I think that's really what it is. Like last year, like I thought his mid range jumper was automatic.
Yeah.
There's multiple times this
It
year
was
when
like Carmelo, like, yeah.
yeah, there's multiple times like this year when he gets close. Like I understand him missing long twos, but like there's times where he like dream shakes and he must be like 7 feet away from the hoop, and he hits the front rim.
Right, and it pops out. Yeah.
Like again, I don't know if that's like being. I don't know if that's necessarily him being like shell shocked from the Hawks series or him just being bad. But I think it's more that than rule change.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I don't think shell shocked is the right word for it. I think what's happening is he's kind of getting into his own head a bit. We saw it a lot last year where when it was the marquee matchups, he would try and kind of force things. I think he's kind of getting into his own head, like, okay, I'm the star, I got this, I have to carry us. But I don't think he shouldn't have to, given how we should have more talent on offense this year.
We do,
and
yeah.
we are a more better offensive team than last year, I think. So I think he's just having trouble adjusting to that. Like you say, I also think it's just something of a regression to the mean. Like I think he hit a lot of mid-range shots last year that really were more than you would expect to make, and this is just what we see. Is he's taking the same shots, but he's just missing. It happens. It happened to Trey Burke just a lot worse, a few years ago. That's just kind of the thing where.
But you think he?
Yeah, I think it's like a more dramatic. I think personally, I think Kyle's underselling a little bit just because I feel like Randall's missing way more mid-range shots than he's done in most of his career.
You kind of get the sense that he's not quite right?
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's our biggest problem.
What's interesting is that looking at his shot charts from an analytical standpoint,
right.
He's doing things more analytically than last year. So last year he took 16% of his shots from within 3 feet. This year, 24%. Last year, 29% of his shots were from 3. This year, 34% of his shots were from 3. So he's average.
Trying the higher percentage, right? Higher percentage shots.
Those are the higher percentage shots he's taking.
Right.
He's reduced the amount of mid-range shots he's taking, and frankly, a lot of it is just that he's just not hitting threes at the same rate he was. Because you look at
what's the difference of the efficiency at the rim?
At the rim, it's honestly not that much. He shot 65.9% last year, 64.4% this year. That's still a good mark.
That's not substantially different.
Yeah, that's like within margin of error. That's acceptable.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll take a 64% guy at within 3 feet any day of the week.
Yeah.
So while his mid range is his mid range, the number of mid range shots he's taken at every point have decreased across the board, but so have his efficiencies from there. So I don't know. I think the thing about his mid range is that that's kind of like that selective memory thing. Is that we're noticing it more, but that's not really what's most affecting his game. I think the 3-point percentage dropping from 41% to 35% this year. I think that's what's dropping it because he's taking a lot more threes this year too. Yeah.
Curious. What's RJ at the rim right now?
Give me 1 second. So this isn't going to include tonight because Basketball Reference doesn't update till the next day. But RJ within 3 feet of the rim this year is at 63.6%, which is 3% better than last year.
Okay.
But he's taking less. He took 33% last year to 28% this year. Okay. And again, most of that has gone into 3-point shooting. He shot 29% of his shots from 3 last year, 41% this year. His average shot distance has gone up by 2 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, and now he's what? 8 points worse? 8 percentage points worse?
Yeah. So I think
again, it's like we thought there would be a regression because he was going to take more off the dribble jumpers, but 8 percentage points is a little too extreme for us.
And I can check to see what his exact off the jumper percentage is, because it's a good thing that he's taking them. I'll still say I would rather have him take them than not take them. I'd rather have him take them and miss to show he's at least trying. But yeah. So
sadly he's like UFOing.
Yeah,
like, he took
this year,
he took like a couple off the dribble 3-pointers that like didn't even hit the rim.
Yeah, so this year he's only taking 1.4 pull-up threes a game, but he's only making 0.4 of them, so 26%. He's shooting 37.7% from catch and shoot. So he's still, and this is including tonight, I think.
Yeah.
So he's still a viable catch and shoot guy. It's just that a lot of what we're seeing is the fact that he's finally taking pull-up threes because he didn't take any last year. He took 0.3 per game last year. So he basically didn't take any, and now he is taking.
Yeah.
To be fair, he did drop 3% from his catch and shoot percentage from last year, but I think a lot of it is the fact that he just is taking those pull-up threes that he wasn't last year. So the 3-point percentage is a little misleading, but not really.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like that's understandable. You know what I mean? Like, I can, if you're like at 37% and you were 41 last year, I think that's more tolerable than you being at 31.8. You know what I mean? Like again, it's like you like wrap your head around those percentages when they're like a few percentage points off, but like something that's almost 10 is rough. Is rough. But I mean, again, it's like you would hope that Evan would pick up the slack.
Something's got to happen. He's, you can only go with this is a new team, and they're trying to gel for so long.
Right.
Walker might have an excuse, maybe because physically he may be shot. Right, we don't know, but there's no excuse for Fournier to not be able to at least go back to what he was the last couple of years, which was a very good player and clear upgrade over what they had.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean that like I think there's a reason why I haven't like even really brought up Kemba is because it's like I didn't expect a lot from him. I expected him to be better than Alfred, which I guess is debatable, but yeah, I expected way more from Randall and Evan. Like those are the guys that I'm like honing my angst and anger towards because like they're the guys that are in the primes of their careers. Like I want and expect more of them.
Right.
You guys have anything else? Do you have
you want to know a fun little stat? Miles McBride tonight in the G League.
He looked good in
25 points, 9 assists. He did take 24 shots, but still. He wasn't even the high scorer. Lucas Salmonage, 32 points on 23 shots.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
I might have to watch the G League games this year.
Yeah, it's tough because it's like the starters are not enjoyable to watch.
So, no. But the clips they showed of Deuce playing, he looked great, and he was exploding to the basket, and he was getting up and down easy. Almost like there was no guys defending him. It was weird.
Well, Iggy dominated also Westchester too. So I don't want to like take any any solace of this, but good. I'm glad Miles is dominating. That means at least he's a good G League player.
Right.
Do you guys have any more thoughts about this game?
No, I was gonna. Let's get this over with.
Yeah, let's just.
All right. Well,
never speak of this again.
And let's hope the next game is we're not back at the same thing because that might be we might have to get the 6-packs ready before.
Honestly, it might be our last win for a really long while. So
forget the 6-pack. I'm bringing out the keg.
Kyle just needs
one of those gigantic straws.
He needs a bottle of liquor.
No keg tap. I'm just gonna poke a straw in that thing and start drinking.
Damn straight. All right, so the Knicks lose to the Orlando Magic. I believe the score was what 104-98. Was that what it was? Yes, it was. I think. Yeah, 104-98. Pathetic loss by the New York Knicks. Their starters were absolutely atrocious. The only time that RJ, who was one of the starters, went off was when he played with the bench. So, I mean, take with that with what you will. And we have another game on Saturday against the Houston Rockets. If that team loses, if the Knicks lose, I think we need to get the tanks revving. So